Podcast. I'm Jerome. This is Patrick. We got
Hello.
Annalese and Brian. And today we're going to talk to you
Hello.
about a bunch of news and technology and what's going on in the world. So let's talk about it. Brian, let's go over blockchain first.
All right. Gonna have to give me just one moment quickly to pull it
Wow,
up.
you put him on the spot, Jerome.
Yeah, how about this? Since he's not prepared,
Actually,
let's
I
talk
actually
about.
wanted to talk about the happening real quick because that's the most recent event that happened, and I think we threw a pretty successful event, if I do say so myself, in VR chat. It wasn't in Altspace because Altspace is, not as customizable as VR chat, but we had a pretty good time. So,
Nice.
actually, kind of wanted to shed some light on that. We had the guys from BTC and Friends, the creator Rob Allen, the producer from that show, come out. It was really fun. We had a lot of fun. So, if you guys don't know what the Bitcoin happening is, it's every 2010, I think. 210,000 blocks, right? Yeah. So every 210,000 blocks, the blockchain happening happens, and that's when the mining reward for mining blockchain gets cut in half. So really cool party we had yesterday.
Can we just talk about how awesome that whole Bitcoins and Friends animated show is? Dude, it's freaking sweet. Adult Swim was
You
on the
watched
cusp of.
it?
Yeah, I watch it all the time, man. The latest episode is pretty cool. But Adult Swim was on the cusp of picking that up. I kid you not.
No way.
Like
I did not know that.
they aired a episode at like 3:00 in the morning. I believe it was last year, and then they just decided not to pick it up, probably because of conflicts of interest within the banking sector. But these things happen.
Okay, but Adult Swim is pretty known to be out there. I mean, I'm sure you've watched
They don't care.
some of their content. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's
the
not
banking
about
sector.
being out there. It definitely, the people that finance Adult Swim are probably not about the whole cryptocurrency movement. Let's be real here. I mean, this just the way that the creator put it whenever he was talking about it with Rice Crypto on his recent upload to YouTube. And I was talking about this with him on Crypto Blood's Kicking It session. So he was mentioning the fact that he interviewed him and that there was a little bit of a, issue within that sort of like framework of working within the traditional media space because it's so cryptocurrency fringe, I mean, come on, you have cryptocurrency characters that are like falling in love, and you got aliens coming down, and you got like Ross Ehrlich, that guy just straight up being spoofed. And it's just like going over all of Silk Road. It's just so controversial, man. It puts a lot of people on the spot. There's a ton that goes into that show. It's pretty cool. I like it. But hey, you want to talk about how crypto traders are actually begging for more dollar integration as the stablecoin supply hits 10 billion?
So we could talk about it, but I see Cosmo has been like raising his hand a million times, and I was wondering what Cosmo wanted. I'm gonna mute you real quick. Let me see here. Can you talk, Cosmo? Did you have something to say, or were you just raising your hand? I wasn't sure. No. Your hands are just moving. Okay, sorry, Cosmo. We're gonna go back to the podcast. Okay, all right. So we're Patrick. Sorry.
Well, I was going to talk about how JP Morgan is pretty much going to like finance this space with the traditional, banking format, allowing these exchanges to get absurd amounts of liquidity. So that's about it, really. It's an article that you mentioned, so I thought you read it through and you may have wanted to elaborate.
I'm sorry. I was muted. I was sitting here talking and I was muted. My bad, guys. But basically, here's my thing. I feel like there's gonna be a split on that, just because a lot of this community is full of quote unquote, you're anarchists and they want freedom from the banks. And here we are into now JP Morgan is thinking of, backing these exchanges. But I think this is a positive thing. And it's because we need to understand that there's certain systems that may not go away for a really long time. If the purpose of really pushing the cryptocurrency is because we want it to appeal to like more people, and having something like this could be positive. So I feel like this is huge news. I'm happy for them. We all know that JP Morgan tried to do the JP Morgan coin, and that's kind of like, a XRP Ripple, set off for them to do it between the banks. And that's, that was a ha-ha. I wasn't crazy about that. Saying, hey, you know what, we're going to make it easier so that your bank doesn't get declined for, buying cryptocurrency on an exchange. That was a huge problem. Banks got declined. And we were actually making fun of that at the party yesterday. In honor of the happening, we went in and we bought some Bitcoin. Everyone just went on the market and bought Bitcoin, and like people's banks were declining the transactions. That was like a ha-ha moment. So I don't know. I feel like this is a positive reinforcement.
I don't understand why they don't want people to be engaged in this free market. It just baffles me, really.
I mean, I don't know. It was bound to happen. This is not something I'm surprised at all. It was bound to happen.
For sure. Hey, so we organized this conversation through Telegram, and what do you think about Telegram abandoning the TON blockchain platform?
So, in regards to Telegram abandoning that platform, there's few, and we've seen that other conversation platforms such as WhatsApp, they also have blockchain integration platform where you can send cryptocurrency and have the transactions. I was never crazy about the integrations in the first place. For me, the use case, I get it, but it wasn't something that I was actively using. I didn't really care for those methods of blockchain technology use. As long as the messages, for me, these are just chatting platforms. So as long as messages are encrypted and I'm not, getting super annoyed with their, layout of read messages or receiving messages, and it's convenient, like I don't really care for any other add-ons. So like I just didn't care for it. Like same thing with WhatsApp, same sentiment. I don't know about you guys. You guys feel the same about this?
Honestly, I think that most applications that integrate with blockchain is kind of like something that is almost a little unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree.
But, with Telegram facing heat from the SEC, Kick's facing heat from the SEC, and all these sorts of ICO greed rolls from these mega, companies that have a data monopoly.
All right, so for VR news, we're covering Sharknado. Also
funny thing. I hate to say that, but
you think it's
pretty funny. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny, to be honest with you. Like, I think it just highlights people's greed whenever there's a massive run up in the market, and they want to hop on a trend just because they can profiteer. I think it's kind of funny, but that's just my perspective. What about you, Jerome? What do you think about it, the subject matter?
I think Annalese was trying to respond just now, but you're mute.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I was just saying that the fakers are going to come out, and that's just what's going to happen in a lot of these companies. That's why they fail, because they end up not having, an appropriate structure behind it. But it's fine. Go ahead, Jerome. You're saying?
I was saying that I think it's funny, yeah, as well. Telegram, they can make their own decisions, man. I care not, honestly. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm really looking at now what's going on with Lightning, working on messaging platforms, building messaging into protocol, which I thought that was pretty interesting. So that's something I'll be talking about next week, most likely. But beyond that, I heard about that this weekend, actually, at UniVRse event, which was on Sunday. Reckless VR did a meetup with Kraken. They had about 5-hour long conference where there was a bunch of different speakers, just a bunch of different conversations, and really interesting time. After that, I started looking into a little bit of what they were talking about and like what you can do with Lightning Labs and with a lot of these different protocols that are allowing you to be able to do really small microtransactions. And with that microtransaction, it doesn't have to just be money. You know, we're talking about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, the transfer of value, but you can also value your messages, just like how I'll be talking in a little bit about blockchain games and NFT. People value those in-game assets. People value their messages just as well. Value their privacy in their messages and value being able to send money and a conversation on the same platform and not have the government in that conversation or in that transaction or in that, you know, connection whatsoever. So I think that we're just going to keep seeing many different iterations of messaging as messages evolve over time. I still think back to when I first started text messaging, and now it's just like, wow, it's so much more convoluted than then. If I were to tell myself when I first got a phone and first started text messaging what messaging would be like in the future, I would have never imagined bouncing between all of these different applications just to have a conversation with different people on different interests.
Totally. And, you know, I think it's pretty a testament.
Hail Mary.
You know, it's pretty much a testament.
That is an absolute Hail Mary. Guys, what are we doing?
Humans are really just choosing between platforms
What's
to
going
use,
on?
regardless of their culture and where they are in the world, in respect to what just works best for them and where their friends really are. That's one of the reasons why when the federal government found out that Facebook was going to be launching a cryptocurrency, they freaked out. If you think about it, weird. Because they have the largest messaging platform with the most users. So it's a way for them to pretty much integrate, be a one-stop shop, integrate currency that's working inside its own ecosystem for smart contracts, and also disrupt the central banks around the globe. Now that that's changed and it's just going to be pegged to the dollar, people aren't really so worried about it in America. So yeah, we'll see what happens. So speaking of which, I kind of wanted to take that time to segue into coronavirus news, how Facebook's AI is actually cracking down on people spreading fake COVID-19 conspiracy theories and pseudoscience alongside hate speech. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, is it?
Yes,
yeah. So I heard them talking about that. I heard them kind of mentioning it because they were getting in trouble for spreading fake news, as we all know. I think YouTube was doing something very similar when they cranked up the algorithm. So it's not. I think it's good, but also I was hearing that they were at one point in time
a good thing.
Going back on this decision of I guess making things more censored because people started not liking that. So, but I feel like this is necessary. I feel like cracking down on, it's a hot topic. We've all seen what fake news has done in the past. It can literally manipulate an entire, market, country, sector, whatever. So I think that that's valid to do because there is people, even on the news, like you hear people are doing, crazy things because of Corona. We've seen it all over the place. So it's important to do that because silly mistakes are still happening because there's people that just come across things maybe a month later than someone else did and they said, hey, no, stop it. But, I think it's important. That's a good thing that they're doing this.
Well, I'm personally anti-censorship, and I just don't like the way that the algorithms operate sometimes, and they try to stop people from actually expressing who they really are. And, where they come
how
from,
about we segue over to a different
I think in
subject,
this instance,
then, shall we?
It might be a way to open the umbrella, and take things a little bit more full circle. It comes down to the idea of what they define hate speech.
Oh, I'm getting it.
So, yeah. Personally, I've had my account blocked from usage for over a month because of the things that I'd said on Facebook, because of photos that I posted, obviously jokes, memes, and I think it's a little extreme. So sometimes
But that's
their
what I'm
measures
saying.
are
Facebook said
outrageous.
that they were going to draw back from that. They said that they were going to start giving more freedom to people. But like, I think what they're doing is kind of like specifically targeting things that they feel like are an issue, because they realized that their user base was dropping, and they started to, I guess, give some of those freedoms that they took away back to people, and not having the AI pick up and censor, everything like it used to. It's been kind of like drawing back from that. So I think what they're doing is taking a more like centric approach in pinpointing the issue, which is, hey, anything that says this or that, and maybe just kind of targeting it towards one cause that may, be an issue. Like, this would be an issue to spread fake things, but not to censor things that people feel or say. Like, I feel like this is a little different.
Totally.
Actually being promised
the market's always going to choose. There are alternatives like Hive, Steemit, Minds, etc.
I guess from
that provide the same service and actually in a better
Reserve.
UI.
So I kid you not, the Federal Reserve is willing to
even build your own UI and integrate with the network. Not only that, they do have their own cryptocurrencies that are on-chain and off-chain that you can integrate with. So it's all about letting the free market decide. And if they do lose further users, it's on them. The market's always going to choose. There's a lot of competition nowadays with social media platforms. Steemit, Minds, etc. Speaking of the AI, I wanted to touch base on the idea of even build your own UI AI music, because Australia just won an award, man, for having user input based AI.
That is an episode of Black Mirror right there, guys.
I mean, okay, as an audio engineer, I use algorithms in my music that are powered by machine learning all the time. I'm not going to deny it. But so like, yeah, AI, I think it's pretty cool that this is going on. So the idea of, and this is actually for AI music, contest that happens internationally. An award, man, and there was about 13 teams across the world from the Netherlands to Sweden, Belgium, the UK, France, Germany, and Switzerland. Okay, as an audio engineer, I use
there was no US team.
I don't believe so. It doesn't say here in the article. Dude, so like, these things happen, so maybe like they just didn't want to market to the US for this competition, like, because if I didn't hear about it, I live in like the heart of the country, so across the world from the Netherlands. But yeah, I think it's really cool that they were actually voting with AI experts, people that are actually in the robotics engineering and AI field from the firm. Well, firms in Germany, so
they were judging the algorithms that were being used for the music. I actually listened to it a little bit once I saw the article. Can't believe that was today, right? I saw like 5 hours ago that took place. Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my thing. I understand that Australia won, right? And I want to point this out. And I think it's because Jerome was mentioning that they won because the AI had mentioned, knew it was an AI, and that it was writing the song. Is that correct?
So
I don't know if that was Australia that wrote that song, but there was one team that was talking about the song basically being self-aware in the song. 5 hours ago that took place.
So yeah,
interesting.
So here's
pretty
my
much.
thing.
Yep. So the Australian team called their song Uncanny Valley, in a nod to how humans and robots may one day merge. And it was made up of math, computer science, social, anthropologic students, as well as music producers. And the melody and lyrics were written by an AI system, trained with audio samples of koalas, kookaburras, and Tasmanian devils. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, dude,
I didn't get to that part yet. I'm only like 20 minutes in.
Listening to it, and I was like playing the video, we were watching it, but like koalas, that's interesting.
And it was made up of math,
I told you, multiple inputs, and it comes up with an output.
as well as music producers.
Yeah, no,
And the melody and lyrics
gonna
were
bring
written
up,
by
it's
an
funny
AI
that
system,
you
trained
mentioned
audio
the
samples of
whole AI
koalas,
music making
kookaburras,
thing, 'cause I
and
don't know if any
Tasmanian
of you
devils.
heard, but, like 2 weeks ago or a couple weeks
wow.
ago.
So, dude,
They just
pretty
came
sick.
out
I
with
didn't
this
even-
like
I
AI
didn't get to
machine
that part
learning
yet.
software for
I'm only like
Beat
20
Saber
minutes
for
in.
the custom
Listening
songs.
to it. Yeah, I did read about that
video we were
watching. Yeah, I read about that. koalas.
checked out
I
like
that's
the
interesting.
song editor for Beat Saber, but
Yeah, I
it
told
is
you,
an
multiple
absolute pain.
inputs
So you
and
have to,
it comes up with an
download
out.
the
Just
MP4, audio file, you plug it in, and then you have to, go through the entire song, pausing at every, beat or whatever, choose the color, the position, the arrow direction, etc. So they made this AI software where you take, it's called BeatSage, beatsage.com.
Yeah, I did read about
Essentially
that.
just take a YouTube
Yeah,
link
I read about that.
and you plug in the URL to it, and then you choose which difficulties you want. If you want it like no arrows, with arrows, as it goes on, they'll add in like 360 mode and obstacle and all that, and essentially you just put in the URL and you press, they have this slash at the bottom, like a red block that you actually have to like slash your mouse across to start the download. It's really cool. And then it goes through the song, and it uses this machine learning to, listen to the song and then place all the blocks for you in, as much of a, pattern as possible that would make it comfortable to play. I've tested it out with a good handful of songs. A lot of them are hit and miss. I've had a few that are absolutely amazing that I, have favorited on my Beat Saber. A lot of them that I've had to delete just because they're practically unplayable. But the whole idea is that the more people use it, the more songs they put in. It'll use the machine learning and start to understand the patterns better and be able to, more accurately place the blocks for more entertaining and legitimate style song. And not only that, but they also have like software now where you can like put in the song file and it'll tell you if the song, kind of as you guys were saying, was made by an AI or if it was made by an actual person. Practically unplayable. So I think that's just absolutely amazing, because I've been wanting to do custom songs on Beat Saber for a long while. It's always been such a pain, and now I.
You know what you should do? You should make Through the Fire and Flames. I'm sure that one would be insane.
I have that one from a user-created one, because that one's already on Beat Saber as a person user created track.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. Oh, I'll have to try that one out.
You have to get the modded version, which is
The modded version?
I'll have to do like a side-by-side comparison and see how it's different. AI versus user created.
You know what you should do? You should make Through the Fire and Flames. I'm sure that one would be insane.
I have like almost impossible for me to even complete at the moment, so I'd like to see the comparison. But yeah, just
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. Oh, I'll have to try that one out.
VR directly.
You have to get the modded version, which is
The modded version?
in VR, because I play.
Yeah,
I'll have to
it's
do like a
practically
side-by-side comparison and having the capability of adding all my favorite songs that aren't already on there is it's a great piece of technology. As I said, beatsage.com is the website if anyone wants to check it out.
And I'm glad you brought it up. And you can do that with the
That's PC
Quest
only.
version, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought,
They
PC
tell
only.
you directly not to upload the files to Beat Saber just because, they are mostly still very, very rough and they don't want it flooded with, AI generated songs and whatnot for whatever reason. I'm sure they have plenty of good reasons for it. But yeah, currently it's only on PC, so I'm glad I have Beat Saber on practically every platform.
Beat
And I'm glad you brought it up. And you can do that with
very
with
easy,
the
just
Quest
that's
version,
PC
right?
only. Make the
That's what I
song
thought,
file,
PC only.
they tell you directly. Yeah, that's
Theo, so
my take on that.
that's pretty
What's up?
cool. I like that. That's amazing, because I really want to start, putting in songs from Clockwork Records or from my Emanate account. Generate some traffic and traction for brands that I work with through gaming. That'd be amazing. I'm going to check that out for sure. Thanks for sharing. But I'm speaking of VR games. Iron Man 2 VR has a new release date. I'm not sure if you guys heard about that
I
game.
of course saw that. The second I saw the list of articles, I clicked on it, man. I'm devastated that I got pushed back again. I might as well. I was so excited to play that in February. It got pushed back to May 20th. I was excited this week, thinking I got just a few more days left till I get to play Iron Man. And now it's gone to July 3rd.
That'd be amazing.
I'm gonna check that
Things
out
happen,
for sure. Thanks for
dude.
sharing.
But,
But I'm speaking of
yeah,
VR
darn
games.
you,
Iron Man
coronavirus,
2 VR
the
has a new
COVID
release date.
men,
Not sure
the
if you
culprit,
guys, heard about
or
that
so.
game.
That's what the company is saying.
The
So.
second I saw the hey man, as long as it's good, as long as that's not buggy, I'm fine. I'll gladly wait. Take my money. I'm ready to play Iron Man. I'm ready to talk to Jarvis. Looks like it's gonna be a great game. Really excited. Since we're already in the VR topic, I saw a recent game that just got its alpha last weekend or over the weekend. Me and Annalese actually checked it out last night, called the Vigo. It's PC versus VR. So it's kind of like Attack on Titans. If you watch that anime, the person on the VR headset will try to knock out the up to 2 players that are running around on the ground, the warriors they call them. And yeah, it's Titan versus warriors, and it's so much fun. We had so many different ways of like attacking each other and trying to knock each other off the stage.
It's pretty cute. It's a pretty cool game. You said within 15 seconds they ran out of private beta codes.
I wouldn't say 15 seconds. It was like 59. Like it was definitely under a minute. They had the first batch of 1,000 codes that was gone. Then I found out about it by one of the people that got the first batch. I immediately signed up for the Discord, and it said that they were going to get another batch of 5,000 coming soon. So I had it like pinned, ready, and waiting to go. The second it dropped, I just happened to already be in Discord. So I immediately clicked on it, typed exclamation E, and within seconds later, they locked the chat and said that was excessive because there was literally constant amount of people that were just messaging hashtag key. And then they said that they had more than the 5,000 requests in, and that when they get the next batch, it's going to go to the people that were waiting. So it's going to take a while for you to download that game to Vigo, but it's so much fun. I think it's an amazing game. I see that they have a section that looks like it's going to be coming soon for online play. Currently, they're allowing you to test online play by matching up with someone else on Discord and using Discord to be able to manage the online, but it looks like the native online within the next update. So that's going to be really sick to just be able to say you download it on your PC at your house. I'll have my VR headset at my house, and we can play a game together. I think it's
that's pretty awesome, dude. That marketing campaign is ridiculous. They're getting that sort of traction,
for
and that's
online play.
Currently,
I don't think they put any money into their marketing. They just had other people like me that'll immediately find an alpha game, and then the second I find it, tell them people in like Discord and stuff like that. One of my friends dropped it in a Discord, and I immediately jumped on it. Just be able to say you download it on your PC at your house. I'll have my VR headset at my house, and we can play a game together.
Text to text.
That's pretty awesome.
Marketing,
that marketing
like that, peer-to-peer, direct.
They're getting that sort of traction.
Best
that sort of attention.
Marketing out there. Speaking of marketing, we definitely should plug in an upcoming event that we're looking at doing soon.
So if anybody is interested in just general mining community, we are going to be co-hosting an event. It's called Do You Mine? Essentially, it's going to be regarding the recent happening and the future of mining and how that's going to be looking like in the blockchain space and how that's going to be affecting us from now to 2024 to 2044, and so on and so forth. So it's just going to be a conversation that we're going to have. It's going to be on June 4th, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, June 4th on Zoom, as well as here in Altspace.
So we're going to have a Altspace conference, and then we're also going to have a Zoom call available for anyone who actually wants to join in on the conversation and ask the professionals and people in that field any questions regarding that if you are dedicated in that field. So and so on and so forth.
And if we're lucky, there might be an after party in VR chat. Have a little bit of fun,
Woo -woo. I believe. Is that right? VR chat. It should be a good time. It's going to be a really interesting conversation because mining is a very niche market and a lot of people aren't involved in that market to begin with, but it's also literally how and why Bitcoin exists regarding that. So it's something that is important to just understand. So I don't know. If you're just someone who's kind of like a spectator and just wants to know more information on it, I would say come to our Altspace Altspace option because it's free.
Yeah, it should
and
be
it's going to be a cool place to like
really
mingle and
interesting,
just learn about different companies and how the world
mining
works.
is a very niche
So
market,
online,
and a lot
run
of people
nodes,
aren't,
etc.
involved in that market
Yeah,
to
I'm
begin with. But
definitely
it's
gonna be rolling
also
through. Why not?
literally how
Spread some knowledge, probably
why
onboard some new
Bitcoin
users that
exists.
don't know about it.
So
Get something like
it's something that
power
is
friendly,
important to just,
user friendly,
understand.
smartphone
I don't know,
mining
if you're
applicants.
just someone who's kind of like
just
a
try to
spectator
spread
who
word
just wants,
about
more
the
information on it, I
idea
would
of
say come
using
to
data
our,
and devices
Altspace option
to
because it's free,
provide
and
sovereignty.
And it's going to be a cool
and
place to like mingle
true
and just
freedom
learn about
through
different
commerce
companies and how the
and
world works.
away from
Online,
this
nodes,
whole
etc.,
central
so
banking
Right,
cartel
right.
nonsense that's been going on.
Central
ran by-
banking cartel.
Yeah, that's what it is, dude. It's just like a cartel of people that like give their friends all the money that they want ever in their wildest dreams, and then tells like washes the taxpayers and tells the majority of everybody else to just go and
freedom through commerce.
work it, pick
away
themselves
from,
up by their
this whole,
bootstraps. It's just
central banking cartel
one giant joke at the moment. Like
nonsense
it-
that's been going
they want
on.
people to stay home,
Central
but they won't
banking
give them the money they
cartel.
need to stay
That's
home.
what it is,
So
dude.
people
It's
are
just
going
like
out there
cartel
trying to get
people
work and
that,
getting
like,
arrested
give
because they're
their
trying to
friends
do
all
their
the money that
job.
they
So now they can
want
actually live and not go
ever
homeless. Like
their
how does that make any
wildest
sense?
dreams, and then
But anyway,
tells,
that's
like,
besides the point. I'm not going to get
washes
into
the
a rant
taxpayers
and
tells the
lose my
majority
cool,
of
guys.
everybody else to just go
Anyway,
and
it's what it is.
work it, pick themselves up by their
Yeah.
bootstraps. It's just
On
one giant
that
joke.
note, I'll close up with
They want
some
people to stay
news in
home,
regards
but they
to
won't give them the money they
cloud
need to stay
gaming. I
home.
love to talk
So
about
people are
Google
going out there
Stadia.
trying to get work and getting
There's a lot
arrested
going
because
on
they're
in
trying to
that
do their job.
cloud
So now they can actually
gaming
live and not
worlds.
go
A
homeless.
lot of
Like, how
different
does that make any
games that are
sense?
being dropped.
Anyway, that's
I'm
besides the
really
point. I'm not gonna
excited
get into a
because
rant.
there's so many
and
different
lose my cool
games
guys.
that have
Anyway,
decreased in price from when
that's
it
what it
came
is.
out. Really trying to increase my Stadia library. One of the things that you should know about Stadia is you don't have to worry about your storage. So I haven't worried about, how much space I have and I'm going to have. It's not something that they want you to care about when it comes to gaming. And I think that that's something all gamers shouldn't have to deal with anymore. I constantly have to think about how much space I have for like my Xbox or something if I'm going to get a game on that platform. It's gotten me to the point where it's just like, if I have to worry about how big the game file is going to be and if it's going to take up too much space for me playing other games, I might as well just put it on Stadia. So something to think about if you want to be able to play your games on the go and have fun while also keeping a high fidelity of gameplay. We've been playing a lot of like Monopoly on the go at family members' house, and just being able to connect it on via a computer is amazing. It's gotten me to the point
for
where
sure.
it's just like,
Speaking of video games and consoles, let's talk about these whole remastered Tony Hawk games, man. Tony Hawk 1 and 2 being remastered, coming to a console near you. And they're not going to do any microtransactions. The game's going to be restored as it once was when it originally came out, just with better graphics. The original warehouses, original schoolyard, all the maps as they once were. And I think it's something
video games and
that's going to like actually
these whole
be successful.
Tony Hawk
Because-
games.
When I saw
Target-
that, I thought of Jerome
Tony Hawk
because
1
I read that
and
it's
2
on
remastered coming
Xbox,
to a console near you.
PlayStation, and PC, and I was like,
they're
oh,
not gonna
no
do
Stadia.
microtransactions.
I
It's
figured as
probably
much.
gonna
I didn't
hit-
think it would run on that.
It's probably going to hit Stadia though.
Better graphics.
You think
more than
so?
likely, yeah, they might.
Yeah,
put
it
over
could be.
Stadia.
Serious Salmon's on there. Why not?
Yeah, and they
I think
brought
it's
Doom
something-
64 today.
It's gonna like
Oh,
actually.
okay. Well, see,
be
they're
successful.
remastering the game,
because
adjusting
So
whatever
when I
they
saw
need to
that, I
adjust
thought
to,
of
get them
Jerome
on
because
there.
I
So
read
it
that
looks
it's
it looks
on
fine.
Xbox,
Yeah, you got to optimize.
PlayStation
Can't
and
just
PC,
drop
and I was like,
things
oh,
on
no
a
Stadia.
cloud-based server, and
It's probably gonna
hopefully
hit much. I didn't
it
think
runs.
it
You
would
actually
run
have
on that.
to
it's probably gonna hit
stress
Stadia,
test it
though.
and
More than
You
what
likely,
you got to
so?
do
yeah,
to make
they might
sure
port it.
everybody
Yeah,
can
it could
enjoy
be.
the platform
Serious
and the game on
Salmon's
the
on there.
platform.
Why
So-
not?
I definitely think so. I see Stadia growing a wide community
Oh, okay,
really
well,
fast.
see,
There's a
they're-
bunch of new
they're
streamers that
remastering the
keep popping up every day
adjusting whatever
that's
they
now
need to
streaming
adjust to,
Stadia.
get them on
I
there,
might
so it
stream
looks-
some
it looks
Stadia
fine.
You
today.
gotta optimize.
This market's
Can't
just
just
growing
throw
wider
things
and
on
wider as
the
more and more
cloud-based
people are stuck at home with 2 months free
hopefully
access.
It runs. You actually
Yeah,
have to
I'm saying. So
stress
that's
test it
might as well
and
just play
do
Google
what you gotta
Stadia on a
do
live
to
stream.
Make sure everybody can enjoy.
See, that's
the
not a bad
platform
idea.
and the
Hey, so
game on the
speaking of
platform,
games and Let's talk about card games for a minute. I'm sure you guys have heard of the company Topps, right? They make like tons of sports cards and whatnot.
This market's just growing.
And they're in like Walmart, Target, all these other different companies like for their physical products. Well, now they're on the Wax blockchain. So they're actually going to be going digital for NFTs and collectibles. I think that's pretty sweet. Like this is bleeding edge technology, and this company has been innovating in the whole graphical print industry since like 1940. Like, you know, this is a company that's pretty much well reputable. That people and Americans know and love. So I want to see what this means for Wax. So they're actually going to be going digital, you know, hopefully for NFTs and collectibles. Their smart contract ecosystem will flourish and bloom because of this. I honestly haven't even heard of the Wax blockchain until I heard about that industry since like
Really?
Yeah,
I've been Wax a little bit.
The Topps
this is a company that's
integration a while ago.
pretty
I know
much well reputable.
when I was reading about it, they brought
People
up
in
they were going to do
Americans
like
know
the
and
Garbage
love.
Pail
So
Kids and a few
I
of
want
their
to see what
classics
this
as
means
an
for,
Garbage Pail
Wax.
Kids. Oh god.
Yeah, you remember
And,
those. A lot of people remember those. They're gonna have those as the initial
Their
NFTs,
smart
so you
contract
can
ecosystem will flourish.
get
and bloom
limited
because of this.
mints and
I honestly haven't even heard of the
you know,
Wax blockchain until
collectibles.
That's big again. That's
Like,
big
about
amongst
that.
the traders market. People who collect these
Really?
cards and like
Yeah.
trade these cards. This is huge for them.
The top now they're going to be able to have the blockchain digital asset form of some new releases and some, you know, I assume
Garbage Pail
original.
Kids. Oh god.
Yeah, you remember those. A lot of people remember those. Like digital versions of the physical prints, which would be really neat for anybody that still has collections of the physical copies.
That's
and
big
then
again. That's big amongst the
being
traders
able to,
market. People who collect these cards
get
and like
a
trade these cards. This is
new
huge for them.
version that they can trade online. And, yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see what they do. And Wax is definitely a good platform for them to go on to. They're very big in the whole like skins, like gun skins and weapon skins, and really neat digital assets of that format. They've definitely been getting really heavy into blockchain assets for the past couple of years. So really looking forward to seeing how that's going to evolve.
Totally. I mean, Wax in itself is a red candle right now, sitting at about a negative 60, and actually negative 80% ROI. And it's actually interoperable with EOS, fully backwards compatible. So we shall see what comes of this.
We shall see. We shall see. Ooh.
So I gotta ask you, Brian, you ready to give us your digest? Totally. I mean, Wax in itself is a red candle right now, sitting at about a negative 60, actually negative 80% ROI, and it's actually interoperable with EOS, fully backwards compatible. So
no Loom.
we shall see what comes of this.
I don't remember the full name. The zombie.
We shall see. We shall see.
Was it Solidity? The blockchain
I gotta ask
coding
you, Brian, you ready
program
to
for you to
digest?
learn how to code smart contracts and make your own kind of like essentially a crypto kitty. It's got the 26 or whatever character key that makes up the genes of the zombie, the eyes and the hairstyle and the color and the clothing and etc. etc. Well, anyway, they are moving more into healthcare and the travel industry as opposed to those games. Smart contract. Let me do that real quick if I even have the kind of like essentially a crypto kitty. It's not giving me
Bob, Brian, I sent you a message to amplify your mic.
Yeah, there we go.
You
That
know,
should be better.
you weren't as smooth as I thought.
Sorry about that. It should be amplified now. Hopefully that's a little bit better. But yeah, that's for Loom. Like I said, what was it? Their official statement is that they're going to be focusing on healthcare and travel industry. So a lot of people are thinking that they're leaving the gaming side. Battle Racers, I know, was their blockchain racing game that they were planning on working on. So who knows? Hopefully they still have all those games and projects still going and developing and ready to release soon, and just kind of expanding their, what they're working on. I don't know if we have any comments from any of you on Loom, if you've checked them out in the past or thoughts on them moving away from the gaming sector. But yeah, that's that one IOTA. Some of you may or may not have heard of it. They're creating a new decentralized social media project. So I'm assuming something similar to Steemit, or that's pretty much the only big named social media blockchain project that I'm really aware of. But it's going to be called Society 2. It is going to be built with the IOTA blockchain, and it is going to be a platform for social media dApps. So maybe to host things like Steemit or other social, blockchain projects and whatnot, or maybe it's going to be its own type of like Facebook on the blockchain and just hosting these other smaller projects as like add-ons or whatnot. Don't know too much about it, but that's always cool to see more decentralized social platforms with Facebook as such a behemoth, and with them owning Oculus and trying to get headsets on everyone's faces and just stealing up all their personal data. It's really nice to be seeing something on the opposite end of the spectrum coming out. Personal opinion, but
I think personally,
make it sound horrible.
No, here's the thing. I do know for a fact that they are doing exactly what Brian said, but having all these other
100%.
options, diluting the marketplace, isn't really that much of a good thing, Like,
well, I definitely
for sure.
understand that side for splitting up where people are on and off, but at the same time, I've been hearing about a lot of people quitting, Facebook for one reason or another, choosing to because of issues they've had with the platform, or just because of how old it is, or just lack of interest in it. So I think one way or the other, something new is in store for people to sink their teeth into. MySpace was kind of the original behemoth of it. Then Facebook took over, and that lasted a good 7, 8, 9 years, and Facebook's been around for quite a few. Now they do also have Horizons and all this stuff with Oculus, and going into a more virtual social setting. But at the same time, I feel like with their whole, just kind of what they do, in advertisement and taking people's personal data being one of the biggest reasons a lot of people have left Facebook, that something on the other side of it is going to be of a lot of interest to a lot of people. Yeah, so we don't have anything else to bring up on that one.
The main purpose of the main purpose of IOTA was for Internet of Things, IoT. It was supposed to be integrating with cars. It was a non-profit as well. It's supposed to be integrating with household devices and even smart cities. That's the whole purpose of IOTA. And I'm not for sure how I feel about deviating from that real world use case to go towards software as a service, social media. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, only time will tell, I suppose, in that case, see how it succeeds or fails as a platform. But in other articles, I only have a couple left. I believe it's Animoca, I don't know how exactly you'd pronounce it, brands. They're going to be integrating blockchain into Crazy Defense Heroes, which is I'm assuming something similar to EOS Dynasty, or I have another one on my phone, I don't remember the name, but that's sort of, where you have a couple of heroes, they go and they just kind of fight monsters on repeat, you collect assets to craft items and whatnot. I haven't played it personally. Apparently it's got millions of downloads on the Google Play and I assume iTunes App Store. They're going to be adding in NFTs to it, starting with a chest sale. So I assume, like what a lot of projects do for pre-sales and whatnot, they have different, priced chests that have different collectible digital assets, which I've never been a big fan of. It's never really seemed to work for a very successful project, in my opinion, from all the many failed crypto games that I have reviewed in the past that have attempted the same sort of...
Many failed.
Yeah, many failed. But, apparently it's already a successful game with millions of downloads, so... it's a little bit different. This isn't a pre-sale to get the game going. This is just an addition to it. So who knows? Maybe it could work. Maybe it brings a whole new addition to the game. But Whether or not people actually use the assets or not and trade them is a whole different thing. Right now, apparently they're already integrated, but there's no use for them. It says that the NFTs are just collectible items that cannot be used in the game. It doesn't go into what the assets are, so I don't know why they would have non-usable items in the game you can collect. It seems kind of weird, but I don't know. It's from a big brand, Top Game apparently, adding more blockchain into the world. Hopefully it'll get some more people's attentions. And finally, the Sandbox and Gitcoin have partnered up. They plan on bringing, hackathons for game creations in the game, as well as to organize special bounties on Gitcoin. So I don't know exactly how they plan on integrating that. I assume some sort of contests for creating, items, assets, that sort of thing for the Sandbox. Maybe like coding in trees or environments or something like that.
It's literally just the idea of, well, it's not just that. It's also the idea of not just building things. Definitely not just building things. It's also about just like expanding upon the ecosystem to make it much more user friendly. It's just co-opting through crowdsourcing. I like this idea of freelancing through blockchain technology, where Gitcoin can act as a middleman, give people jobs in second world nations where they have access to internet, but they don't have access to good, paying jobs, but they can still develop and create things through coding and then earn income through that. And that's exactly what Gitcoin is used for. So it's not just for the assets within, Sandbox. It's also going to be used for the back end, the front end, debugging, even solving issues within the framework so that the application's built on. So that being stated, I think more platforms that are like, 3D, VR, AR on blockchain should adapt to that and not just rely on their own team, because there's a world of coders out there, tons of blockchain developers out there that probably want to help you as long as you give them a reason to help you. So
we're willing to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. We're really said.
Looking for jobs. Yeah, so that was it for my articles from the week. I don't know if anyone else has something to. Sorry if I was interrupting.
Closing statements.
Yes.
Nope. Okay, so I'll grab some closing statements. All right. So again, there's going to be a mining conference on June 4th. Come check that out. If anyone is interested in seeing any of the Bitcoin worlds that we held for the Bitcoin happening party, please join our Telegram group, t.me/blockchainuniverse, just like the name of this event, for more information. And other than that, make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 8 p.m. for the Futurist podcast. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.